each year, on this first Sunday in November, I pause. And I take an assessment of what I've learned about spirit, about myself, about this community, over these past 12 months. And sometimes it's a little bit hard for me because it's kind of a blur about what I learned when, it's like what happened. But this year, it's easy because Terry retired last October. So everything that I've learned in this past year has happened in that new container. So I definitely have some specific things that I want to share with you before we get to your purple pieces of paper. And Rebecca will collect those in a minute, so scribble if you have to. But I share them with you, not that you can all be proud of me and everything for what I've learned, but so that you can think about how you've evolved. How have you evolved over this past year? So, we no longer have, as we're adults, we don't ever have grade levels anymore. Like, okay, at the end of April, we're going to look back at what we learned, and then we're going to start a new year. Like, we don't have that anymore, that opportunity to turn a corner. So as adults, we have to figure out, a different way for us to do that assessing of ourselves. And actually, on one of the weekly word calls a few weeks ago, Ellen posed this question that fit this lesson so well. She asked something like, how do you measure that you are growing now? How do you measure that you're growing now? And she referenced Remy, actually, outgrowing a pair of shoes. And getting a new shoe is definitely a measure of growth in one phase of our lives, right? Everyone had these really fascinating answers to this question that was asked. How do you measure how you grow now? How do you know you're growing? So I'm going to take Remy outgrowing a shoe to set up the first thing that I have learned this year. So remember back when you were young and outgrowing shoes, remember those days? How did you know that it was time to say, hey, Mom, I need a new pair of shoes? Discomfort, right? Discomfort, that tight, squeezy feeling that made you uncomfortable all day long as you were going through school. Now, if you were like me and you didn't like the shoes, it was so easy to toss them in the donation box, like, get rid of those. Time for something new. But what about the shoes that you really loved? What about the shoes that you won a tournament in, or the ones that you saved and saved to get because your mom said they were too expensive, or the ones you wore when that little boy held your hand and said, "Ooh, you have little cute shoes on," right? Those favorite shoes. You're going to keep squeezing your foot into them long past the point of scrunching your toes, and sometimes someone else would have to say, "Hey, I think you need a new pair of shoes here," right? Well, I learned an outgrown shoe lesson at the beginning of this year and over the past year. I learned that if you really want something that fits you better in your current life, you have to have faith that something better is in the realm of possibility. And the first step you have to take is saying, hey, Mom Spirit, I've outgrown this, and I need something that fits me better. This is the beginning. That's beginning of it being uncomfortable and you rising into saying, I'm uncomfortable. My toes are being scrunched. And I had to learn this with one of my favorite shoes this year. So when Terry and I were early in our relationship, we built a house together. And it was during COVID, and we got a great price from a builder because nobody was buying homes back then. And because they weren't building many houses, we had the attention of all the contractors all at once. And it was built right on time, lickety-split, and we loved it. We loved it. Many of you came to our house out in Paris, kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? Right. Did I mention that we loved it? We loved it. We adored it for about 2 years. But sometime during that third year, our toes started to get squinchy in those shoes. We were starting to get uncomfortable in the house. See, after the pandemic ended and broke, builders eventually started rapidly filling our peaceful neighborhood with all these new homes. And the vibe changed drastically. I don't know how our toes grew, but they did, and it was different. You see, we valued peace and quiet and time outdoors and cooperation and all of that. Who you know us to be, right? Well, but the neighborhood was becoming everything but those things. As the residents kind of started jockeying for power as the new HOA board was about to be getting ready to launch. And there was this identity crisis unfolding about what kind of neighborhood would we become. And as I said, our toes started to scrunch, right? But we loved that pair of shoes. Did I mention that? But it was no longer comfortable. But we had invested a whole lot of money and time and heart and love and joy into that house, intentional energy. And we spent the first few months of Terry's retirement kind of holding hands and learning the ask and you shall receive lesson, right? Lay what you have on the altar, no matter how much you love it. Put the shoes in the donation pile and ask for what you really need and want and prepare for that transition. So Universal Power worked with us to release, to co-create, to begin again in our current home, which is peaceful and tranquil and all the things that we love. It's very different than our first home. But we've spent the last 11 months kind of walking around staring at our shoes. You know, when you were a kid and you got new shoes, you just walk and look at them and all that. So we've been kind of doing that for the last 11 months. But what a lesson for me and for all of us about this one huge thing. One, notice something doesn't fit anymore. Two, let it go in faith, and then co-create something new. And through the entire experience, Terry and I had to learn to do what I call the change dance together. Okay, so we've been learning some change dancing. So Terry had to do this change dance in retirement. Those of you who've done it, you have to change your identity and change all your stuff and step into a new way of existing. And we had to learn to do this dance together so that we could create this loving way to share time and space with each other 24/7. I had to figure out how to ignore her so that I could get my writing and spiritual work done every day. And she had to figure out her own path to enjoying retirement without, patients' problems to solve and medical things to address. And we both had to learn how to dance when one of us is working and one of us is not working. And it's certainly been a learning dance. Joyful, actually. And you all have been doing that dance of learning with me as I'm learning to be a minister in the midst of all this personal change that has happened for me in the past year. So a year ago, I was suddenly faced with the big change of the person I'm married to suddenly having the freedom and the time to do whatever the heck she wanted to do, including travel. And while I had this to continue, right, lovingly. As you can imagine, I wanted to do everything that she was doing, and I had to figure out the relationship with the center and how could I be my best self in all of that. And so you may remember at this mid-year meeting last year, I talked about needing to figure out how do I be free? How do I have freedom in my ministerial self? Remember, I shared my 3 words, freedom, fulfillment, abundance. Y'all fulfill me like crazy. I love this. And I have abundance in my life. That's not an issue, but it was that freedom word. Remember, we were talking about that. Not your son freedom, a different freedom. So it was just this freedom that I had to figure out. And together, y'all, we did that. We did it. We manifested Dieter as a collective group. We manifested him, a second minister who's very wise and has so much spiritual teaching to share. And we learned together that your attachment to the center couldn't really be about me. I never wanted it to be about me. Evidence this year has shown me, and you guys, shown you too, that your connection here is to the community, and that's separate from your connection to me. Yeah, you love me as your teacher and your minister, but you really love each other. You really love this philosophy that is beginning to change your life or has been changing your life for a long time. You love that you're beginning to feel better about yourselves and your lives. And you really love digging deeper through classes and shared experiences together. And even more importantly, you love who you are becoming by being a part of this beautiful community. You love you. And you love your inner light that you have learned to shine here. That is the truth that sets me free. A community connected enough to each other and to the center itself and to me, that community sets me free to do some personal things, to keep learning and growing and living beyond just being a minister. Thank you for gifting me with that freedom. You might ask, well, how did we do that, Laine? How did you know you were free to go and travel and guest speak and do these other things that you love? How did you know that? Well, I'll answer that by saying your actions and choices you showed me. And do you want to know what evidence that I'm using to measure that we have grown to the point that I can enjoy my freedom and this beautiful relationship to the center? Do you want to know the evidence? One piece of evidence is that you continue to step forward and want to help. Many of you stepped forward and said, how can I help? How can I help with the logistics, the welcoming, the administrative tasks, all the stuff that makes our juicy center beautiful? How can I help so that this spiritual home thrives and prospers? More of you became volunteers in the past 12 months. And what happens is that with more helpers, the leadership team, the practitioners and board members get to move beyond doing the beginning level, entry volunteer level stuff, and they get to be doing some leadership roles that help us attract different kinds of people wanting to connect spiritually in different kinds of ways beyond Sunday. For example, such as Jill stepping up as the greeter leader to teach other people how to greet so that she can help with Glenda on the volunteering committee so that people have ways to connect with the community. Or how about Ellen passing off some of the camera and the video roles, thank you, Ellen, hosting stuff to other volunteers so that she can start the weekly word support call on Tuesday night. She has more bandwidth to do something a little bit more leadership than just running the camera, right? Or Susan handing off hospitality so that she could share more wisdom in classes, Sacred Cup, and working to spread the word of this center to her entire recovery community. And now just starting this whole swag thing that we're all going to be swagging around here, right? And Heather, who kind of stepped into the hospitality role after Susan started passing off some of the hospitality, bringing all y'all snack bringers, I love you, so that she could step into more leadership with the children's ministry. And, you might not know, but she leads the whole practitioner team. So we all are finding different ways to make an impact in the center because more of you are helping. Leaders are starting to manifest for all of us these new possibilities of programs and activities, both social and spiritual. That was one piece of evidence. Another piece of evidence that this community has granted me more freedom is, beyond volunteering, most of you are also financially supporting the center like crazy. And you're modeling for whatever newcomers come that generosity here is the norm. It's the norm. You guys blew all ideas and vision about the summer out of the water. We had such high attendance in classes and activities and more love bucks than we could have ever imagined, right? Basically, the evidence is that your commitment to the center is growing on all levels. More volunteering, more summer and class attendance, more ownership of the community as evidenced by increased giving and stuff. With the freedom you granted me, I had to figure out what my relationship with the center needed to be for me to be my best self. And guess what? You have to figure that out too. What is your relationship with this place that brings you to be your highest and best self? So listen to how I did it. So here's the thing. You guys have the freedom. You have freedom to come on Sundays if you want to watch online if you want to stay in your pajamas. You have the freedom to come every Sunday or never. You can come every single time, and some of you do. I've never had that freedom in this community, but I'm a little bit closer. So with more freedom and flexibility, I had to ask myself, how often do I need to lead services and activities, classes and social activities and stuff like that for me to feel my best self on all levels, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of that? So through trial and error, here's what I've learned over the past couple of years, but especially this past year. I can miss one Sunday pretty easily. Y'all are awesome, right? One Sunday, I'm fine. 2 Sundays is getting in a row, getting pretty better. But when I get to 3 Sundays in a row, I get a little antsy. I want to get back. I want to see you. I want to do my work, right? But sometimes travel opportunities are worth 3 Sundays in a row, right? I have never missed 4 in a row, and I don't think it's going to take me a while to get there, right? We'll see. We'll see. You have to figure out what frequency that is for you, too. And over the years, long ago, I figured out my level of generosity with the center. My heart's pretty open, and how much I support financially makes sense to me. And sometimes Terry and I give more than our monthly amount, but not always. We've figured that out for the most part. So my lesson right now is not about giving and figuring that out. My lesson is more about my time. And the third kind of energy that we run here is our love, like our vitality. How open-hearted are we going to be in the center? How vulnerable are we willing to be with our spiritual family? How much fear am I willing to release in order to experience all the good stuff that love has to offer? This one's a no-brainer for me because it's an all-hearter for me, right? I gave my heart to this community back in 2017. As I said, today's my 7th anniversary of giving my heart here. So I know my entire heart's in, no doubt. But every single one of us has to decide that for ourselves. How much heart and love energy, how much consciousness and appreciation feels good to you at CSLTB. So somewhere along the way this year, we figured out that balance together, giving our time and our attention and our hearts and all of that more and more. And over the summer, it was clear to me that we all valued this community so much, above and beyond what I ever expected. We dove into that summer of love. You showed that value, that connection here all summer long. And you've given more generously since June than ever. I can't wait to go over those numbers. You know what? The wish list on Amazon, I get more boxes delivered to my house. It's crazy. We keep wiping the list out over and over. Y'all are just so amazingly generous. And the big symbol for this, for me, was our flower power party at the end of the summer of love. Man, that room was thick with love, right? We were all into it, all fully dressed. Y'all were amazing, all costumed up. We were just there. We were just incredible. It was it was kind of like a graduation night to me. It was really amazing. So I truly learned that this ministry is not about me. And I hope you all learn that too, because it sure looks like you've joined me in that knowing. You're here no matter who's teaching or speaking. You're energetically participating when the music isn't what we expect it to be on a Sunday. The ceiling tiles fall during the week at some point. We're clearly in the perfection-free zone together at any given moment. And thank you for being there with me. I've also learned through experiences in this community over the past year, and especially in the past 6 weeks or so, that together we rise. Together we rise. If the ceiling tiles fall, Together we rise above it and we figure it out. If the musician doesn't have a car on any given Sunday, we come together, we figure it out and do something different. If 1 or 2 or 3 of our houses get flooded in a storm, together we rise. If one of us is feeling vulnerable or scared, together we rise. And I thought it was so interesting that we spent the whole summer pouring all this love all over each other in the summer of love, just getting us ready for hurricane season, where all of that love was there. It was just there for us to draw upon. We are a community of love in action. That is the kind of community that I want. That is the kind of community that you are. We are a community that encircles a member who is hurting or in illness and supports them lovingly and spiritually. We give meals when they're needed. We help pull out wet carpet when that's needed. We move belongings when that's needed. We give financially when that is needed. That is the kind of community I want, and that is the kind of community that we are. You love each other, even when I'm not present to model that love or start the flow of that love. You keep the love flowing. We have members, we love each other even when we're not present. We have members who are seldom, if ever, present, and we love them. Tara, sitting right here on the front row, most mornings her body is in Pennsylvania, but her heart is here, and we love her. Cheryl was here a few weeks ago singing. Most Sundays, her body is in Atlanta, but when she's here, we love her. Helen is in California, but her heart is here, and we love her. We have had 2 long-distance practitioners for years. Barley's up in Ohio, and we love her. And Malara's in Kentucky, and we love her. When you aren't here physically, your heart is here too. That is the kind of community I want, and that is the kind of community that you are. This community can't be about me because I want you to have a community long after I'm gone. I want Remy to have a spiritual family when he's all grown up. And if that's going to happen, we have to continue on the road that we are on. These shoes fit beautifully, and how we are existing is so mature that we don't have to outgrow these shoes. These shoes are the size of love and spirit and wholeness and abundance and freedom. You don't outgrow these kinds of shoes. You live in them. We run marathons in them, and we need that if we're going to leave a legacy for Remy and keep adoring these shoes. Remy will be our legacy. Our legacy will be the love we leave behind, and we are infusing that kind of love energy now. So I've learned a lot this year. But the biggest thing I learned this year is how much I am loved and valued here in this community. Your generosity of words during my 60th birthday celebration was staggering. I told some of you, I've told many of you, that most people, most leaders, do not get those kinds of deep words of love and appreciation until their funerals. I got them when I was alive. I got those words of appreciation in a video, in individual cards, in conversations, and I got them printed in a book that lives in my family room, and every now and then you'll catch me flipping through it. It's just so beautiful. So over the past 7 years, there have been times when I doubted myself, when I felt resistance and judgment and dissatisfaction flowing towards me. Something has shifted, and now I just feel your love. Your words told me about the ways that I've made an impact on your heart and your life, and it was an humbling lesson of generosity and appreciation and pure love. I love these shoes, don't you? Don't you? So these are some of the things that I learned this year above and beyond my wildest dreams. So I want to see what you've learned. And if something new has come to mind, scribble fast, because Rebecca's going to collect them, and I'm going to go through what you've learned and some of your questions. And I really will put on my vote like Ruth sent you a T-shirt for our pizza party. Here, I'll just take some of them now, and then you keep collecting them. Keep collecting them. There's one right there. All right, let's see what you've learned. Ooh, some people wrote on different things. That's all fun, too. Okay, here we go. I'll unfold them as I read them. How about that? So this person said, this is so empowering for me to hear what you have learned. That's very meaningful to me. So thank you for taking the time to do this. What is something you've learned about yourself or about spirit on your journey this year? This person learned that spirit is always waiting for me to catch up and recognize the path within me, the truth within me, the truth within me. This person said, I learned that I need to continue to be of service to others. This person says, I need to learn to have more patience with others and situations. I came to the realization that the person I perceive myself to be is not necessarily congruent with how others perceive me. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that knowledge. That's the word. And then those are questions. Somebody wrote at the top, we are a community of love and action. I love that. They learned, I am the expert on my own experience. I can give voice, be a voice, use my voice for the voiceless. Ooh, Lordy. I learned I am resilient and fully sourced. Keep knowing that one. I still have much to learn about myself, my spiritual life, and how to manifest the life I want. Great reminders of the power of positive thinking. A quality spiritual community is important to the quality of my life. Important. I learned that everything is already contained within me if it isn't, and it is not outside of me. Wow. This person learned how to make a paper airplane. I learned understanding my truth without outside influence and getting stuck in my mind so I can hear my heart with confidence. Getting silent in my mind so I can hear my heart with confidence. No, y'all. I learned spirit shows up always, whether I'm ready, aware, or not. I am always surrounded by love. I learned that it's not an easy journey. I learned there is no challenge spirit hasn't faced before. The secret is overcoming these trials is simply remembering how and trusting in the power within. I learned that my tendency is to enjoy diverse experiences, but it's important to be more present for others, to be a constant in the lives of others, to be a foundation for others. I love that. I learned that I am less sure of what I think is the truth than I have been in the past. That's beautiful. Certainty is the enemy of growth. Love that. Okay. I learned it's okay to be slow with progress. You just take it one step at a time. Beautiful. I learned peace is always available to me. That is true. Y'all learned some good stuff. I got to keep teaching. I learned it really does start with what is inside. I learned being generous feels good and brings more abundance into my life. True. I learned resistance is futile. Life moves forward no matter how I feel about it. It's more fun when I don't resist. Yeah, go with the flow. I learned my time and freedom are worth more than a paycheck. Ooh, that's a big one. I learned everything couldn't have and or shouldn't have been different than it is or was. big, 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 big. I learned and was reminded that there is always enough. Trying to remind myself of this when I think I must give up what I want. I learned the more connected I stay with Spirit, the easier the path through challenges is. Ding, 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 A for the day. Stay connected to Source. I learned when I surrender, I find complete peace, and I can trust that Spirit is always with me. I can always choose peace. Beautiful. Just take a moment and be grateful with me that we are a community that continues to grow and learn. That's the whole point. That's the whole point in all this evidence. Now, let me see if I can get some questions, because I know that's what you really want. Okay, yeah. That's what you learn. Okay. All right, so I always reserve the right to not, I always read the question. I can read what you learned without reading it first. Questions I read first, and then I decide if I'm going to answer them. This is a nice one. What was your favorite experience from this past year in both your life and from CSLTB? My favorite experience at CSLTB is easy because it really was the flower party. Y'all, that was so fun. Thank you for, that was just an amazing, it was fun, yes, but it was heart-opening. It was beautiful to see all of you together and just playing. It was amazing. And I know that we learned a lot before that, so Summer of Love was just amazing. From my life, gosh, favorite experience. There's been so many. Probably there was a moment when, you might have seen it on Facebook, when we were all in red and white striped pajamas, my family, Kelsey, my mom, Terry, me, and Maisie. We all had red striped pajamas. That was a lovely, very rich family time together that I will cherish always as my mother is aging. It's very special for me. So that's a great question. Thank you. Who is a challenging person in your life now, and how are you moving through that? You are, whoever Atna. Who is a challenging person in my life right now? No. I think it has to be way more personal than that. I heard what somebody said. It has to be more personal than that for me to be. I'm not challenged by someone way outside my hula hoop. I'm challenged by someone standing right there beside my hula hoop. And I guess it would have to be my younger brother. And he has set a boundary that's keeping us farther apart than he needs than I need. I wish he was closer. And so it's hard for me to feel like I can be okay with his need for a way distant relationship. And so how are you moving through that? As open-heartedly as I can. Leaving the door open, letting him know when I'm coming his direction, trying to help coordinate my mom to connect with him and things like that, so that I'm in the vicinity should he ever decide to change and want me in his life more. So got through that one. It's such a simple philosophy. What can we do to help it spread? Spreading this philosophy is the same way we would spread anything. I've used this analogy before. When you go into a restaurant and you have simply the best piece of chocolate cake, for me it's chocolate cake, it may be something else for you, the best of whatever you have, you naturally talk about it. You talk about it. You're like, oh my God, have you been to that restaurant down the street? It has the best chocolate cake ever. Order it. Tell them I sent you, right? We talk about things that really give us joy, give us pleasure, give us, we also talk about things, we also like, don't ever go there, right? We do this, we also warn people off. Tell people in your life. How many of you are here because someone invited you to come here? I am. Okay, so quite a few. Some people just hear about something and then they Google it and they come just wander in. Talk about it. Talk about the center. Talk about this philosophy. When people say, "Why are you so happy?" Because, or how can you be so positive? How can you say, I have a lot of spiritual support. Have you ever thought about getting spiritual support? It really makes a difference in my life. There's a Tuesday call. I don't know that the Thursday noon thing is going to be open to just anybody, but Sundays there's classes, there's concerts. Look for opportunities to invite people to be a part of this philosophy. It changed my life. It can change your life too. So if you really want more information about that, let me know. How do you let go of worry? I don't know that I do. I mean, I worry about things a little bit, but I change my mind. I know that if I'm worrying about something, I don't have faith that God is a part of it, because there's nothing more powerful than the divine. So if whatever, we did this in class on Wednesday night, you move from fear to faith, fear to love, fear to something other than what you're afraid of. Most of the time, if you think about your own life, how many times have you worried about something that never, ever, ever happened? It just is, that's the way it works. Worry is just kind of wasted energy. But work with a practitioner too, or, talk to someone who doesn't worry about what you worry about and ask them, why aren't you worrying about this? And then listen. What are some good thoughts to motivate a person? I guess it depends on what you're wanting to motivate them to do or to be, but thoughts. Know the best for them. Know that their life is unfolding exactly the way it should and at the pace that it is supposed to be going. You might like for things to change faster for another person. That's none of your business. Their life is going to unfold. Even if you're a parent, it's none of your business. Their life is going to unfold at the pace at which it unfolds. You're there to witness them and encourage them at whatever pace they're going, right? What is the one thing you want everyone to know about this center? Mostly that I don't bite. No, mostly that what's available here for you. Whatever is available here for you is what other people are probably looking for too. Almost everyone is looking for a place to belong, a place to be comfortable, a place to learn, to think, to go through life with a group of people that cares about them. So that's what I want people to know about the center, is that we're real people going through real lives. How do we experience other spiritual paths and customs but still keep CSLTB as our base? Because I love the beauty of other traditions. When I went through ministerial school, we were exposed to all the different religions. And now online, you can experience any kind of spiritual teaching in the world. You can watch a service, you can go, there are lots of things that happen other than when we're here together. There are things going on all the time. There are interfaith communities, there are interfaith organizations where you can have other experiences, but I definitely say explore. And one of the things I've threatened a bajillion times, we just never pulled it together, was a world religions class. Someday, I think Ruth and I were going to do that. We haven't done it yet. Sometimes I enjoy the feeling of woe, but I fear I will lose myself to the feeling if I dwell too long, although I feel that it's also part of my healing process. What's a healthier way to grieve? First of all, I'd love to have a conversation with this person, because grief is, all emotions are valid and all emotions are valuable. And so grieving and allowing yourself to feel the loss of things that you have lost is so important. We don't want to just put icing on top of a cake that's not baked, right? We want to take the time to bake that. But grief is a normal part of life. It's a part of being our human selves. It's showing you what you valued and a form that has passed on. And so grief is very, very sacred and important. I would say the healthiest way to grieve would be to go through a grief work, either a group or get professional help with going through grieving, because whatever kind of grief you're having, it's not special. Lots of people have also experienced the kind of grief that you're having, and there is a path through. You don't get to go around it. You have to go through it. We can talk more. No question there. What has been your most useful tool when navigating change? Journaling. Hands down, journaling. Talking to people who care about me and then capturing their wisdom, and then what do I think about what they said, and just really processing things through writing. But that's my spiritual practice, is journaling. What is your approach to basically what this question is asking is, how do I speak my truth to people whose truth is very different than me? I think the most important thing is compassion, and realizing that most things in life are opinions, and that we all have different opinions, and we respect other people with different opinions. I don't know if I'm quite hitting the answer to that question, but that's my stab at it. How do you deal with your inner landscape on a daily basis? It's like a garden that I've cultivated for many, 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 many years. If you haven't paid attention to your inner garden, your inner life, I recommend that you do a lot of weeding. You know, you've got to get a lot of stuff that other people planted in there out, so that you can plant the kinds of thoughts and beliefs and the kind of love and your own values and all of that. Your garden inside of you only belongs to you. It doesn't belong to anybody else. If you let other people plant in there, that's on you, you know, because you have a fence around your garden. If you don't maintain your fence, then all kinds of people will plant things in there, and the rabbits will come and eat out your good stuff. Do you ever struggle with staying positive? Hell no. Yeah. Do you ever struggle with not being bothered by what other people do? What does Science of Mind say about life after death? Okay, those are three very, very different questions. Struggle with staying positive? Not much. I was always Pollyanna. I think it's my personality and my spiritual practice that kind of come together to support my positivity. So most of the time I see the bright side of life. I see the possibility in a situation. I don't dwell too much on the possibilities of negativity. Do you ever struggle with not being bothered by what other people do? Yeah, all the time. All the time. But I've also learned that, you know, biting doesn't solve anything. Throwing rocks doesn't solve anything. I'm always bothered by what other people do, but I also remember that I'm not on their journey, and I'm not judge and jury. I don't have to call a thing good or bad or right or wrong. It's none of my business, really. What does Science of Mind say about life after death? That's a lot longer than I can answer here today, but basically that, just in a nutshell, that life is eternal. Life always changes forms. The energy of life enlivens every form in the universe, and life always evolves further. So life after death would simply be an evolution from this point forward, and who knows? It's the mystery, right? I don't think Ernest Holmes made a big deal about that. He thought the most important thing was life here. How has being a minister changed how you live your daily life? I'm a lot less angry. The whole philosophy has changed my life a lot. But being a minister, it's about having a commitment to be loving to every single person that crosses my path. And is that easy? No. But is it my calling? Yes. And running love energy with other people always. That's how it basically changed my life. How do I learn to honor and appreciate things that are good for me that don't look like I thought they would? It's kind of like how you learned about it when your mom put down broccoli and lima beans for dinner and you thought it was going to be macaroni and cheese and chicken fingers. You know, it's like life is always going to show up differently than you expect, and you kind of honor and appreciate the fact that you are growing and evolving into more of an adult spirit, a more mature spirit. And when you get there, then things that don't look the way you thought they would are not so scary or not so weird and make you want to throw them and feed them to the dog or whatever. How do you get someone to stop telling you what to do and stop telling you you can't do something? Boundaries. I mean, I said one of the greatest life skill that we have to grow is how to set a loving boundary, and we can talk more about that. What do you see yourself doing and accomplishing in the next 2 to 3 years? Obviously, I want to continue here and growing and evolving this place. And I just want to do more travel. I just want to, enjoy my life as much as I can. Bye, Tony. Short version of what we believe and teach here. Basically, what we believe and teach here is that your inner life shows up as your outer life. So pay a lot of attention and heal the garden inside you, because if you're growing weeds in there, life's going to look like weeds too. What is a good mantra to calm the nerves over the upcoming election? How many of you are genuinely worried about that, like worried about how you're going to be afterwards? You have the power to manage your own life and your experience of anything that happens outside of you. You get to decide. Does it turn you upside down? Does it delight you? Does it terror you? Whatever. You get to decide that for yourself. So the mantra is the love myself the most. I love myself the most. And all of this, whatever it is, does not determine the quality of my own life. Just keep saying that over and over again. And that everything that happens is by divine order for the evolution of the human race. And where somebody asked me today, I don't remember what it was, but I said, my lessons are on the other side of whatever bridge we take as a collective. My lessons are down that road, my lessons are down that road. They might be the same lessons, they might be different lessons, but my life is on the other side of the election bridge, and I'll learn what I'm going to learn. So that's about as good as I can get for that one. No question there. It is said in Spirit's time, if it's taking too long for you, could it not be for you? You would have to decide that for yourself. If something is for you, if it's not happening fast enough. I always say there are two things we can't control: the how and the when. We can know what we want for ourselves, but we have to surrender the how and the when to the order of the universe, and it's not always going to be on the I like things fast. So that's the final question. Thank you for participating in the lesson this week. We're all teachers and we're all students, and thank you for teaching me so much about myself, about ministry, about life and love itself. Thank you, thank you, thank you for 7 gorgeous years. I love you all, and this is delightful, and I can't wait to take all your notes home and read them. And I'll turn it over to Jan as our board member of the week, and we'll get through the rest of this service quickly. Thank you. I love y'all.